Well, you are watching The Full View, and we continue taking reaction from various political parties to the appointment of new Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, and of course Nhlanhla Nene stepping down in that role. You know, in this business we use cliches generally because they are true, and so one of them is that a week is a long time in politics. It was exactly a week ago when I spoke to the EFF's Floyd Shivambu about the resignation they were demanding of Nhlanhla Nene. Well, here it is, a week later, and the axe has fallen. Good evening to you. Yes. I mean, certainly the EFF is going to view this as a victory. This is your scalp.
Yeah, well, the EFF is emboldened and inspired that ultimately Nhlanhla Nene resigned as a Minister of Finance as we demanded, because he had to. He has got a lot of things which disqualified him from continuing as a Minister of Finance. He was playing hide and seek for a very long time, and now that when he realized we've got solid information that implicates him in a very dirty relationship with the Guptas, he then fell on his own sword, which is a good thing, that when these collaborators of corruption and state capture are exposed, all of them should fall on their own sword, and then they must be held accountable. And as the EFF, we were happy and inspired that we are the ones who brought to the fore, even to the President of the Republic, that this minister, whom he thought is a squeaky clean minister, has got an unsavory relationship with the Gupta criminal syndicate. And the context of that, as we were saying earlier, elsewhere, is that Nhlanhla Nene continued to engage and visit the Guptas in their private home, even when they were implicated in the illegal landing of their jet in Waterkloof, even when they were being investigated by National Treasury on the Hendrina, the dairy, which was one of the most corrupt activities. At that time, National Treasury is busy investigating, and Nhlanhla Nene was busy dining and wining with AJ Gupta and the rest of that criminal syndicate. So his integrity was damaged altogether, and he had hoped that such information will not be revealed. And we revealed it, and it's good that he has fallen on his own sword.
Are there more files yet to emerge, or is what's already in the public domain enough for you?
Look, one of the things which we know is that in some instances, Nhlanhla Nene did speak to people who were asking for money or for some debt and equity partnership with the public investment corporations. He did ask some of the business people to say, you should work with the Guptas or you will not get assistance from the PIC, which borders on corruption. I'm sure if we were to read closely into the corruption legislations that exist in South Africa, will discover that such a threat and instruction borders on corruption and unlawfulness. And of course, it's issues that we must take up, and we see how we then get to litigate on such issues, because he did threaten some of the people who were trying to look for equity finance from the PIC to say that they must work with the Guptas or they will not get to be assisted.
Would you support the call that's been made by people like the UDM's Bantu Olumisa into an investigation into the PIC?
Well, we have no problem. If there is wrongdoing in the PIC, there should be a thorough investigation of all the wrongdoing that has got to happen. Under whoever has been in the PIC, there should be a proper process that cleans the image of the PIC so that it continues to play the role that it plays, because it is possibly the only institution that can meaningfully facilitate the inclusion of black people into mainstream economic activities. So it's one of the most important institutions in South Africa's economy, and it should be treated with respect and integrity by whoever leads it.
The ANC, of course, will sing the song that, this was a principled move by Nhlanhla Nene, that we've had an unprecedented move by a minister resigning because he's been implicated. The president's statement was clear that he hasn't been found guilty of any wrongdoing. My question would be, what about those ministers who have been found guilty of wrongdoing by no less than the courts, including the Constitutional Court? Are you going to call for those ministers to resign?
No, you'll remember that when we debated the State of Nation address, I saw the EFF Twitter handle is now reminding South Africans that we made a clarion call that there must be discontinuation of any relationship with all the ministers that were part of the Gupta criminal syndicate. We mentioned them by names: Malusi Gigaba, Batabile Dlamini, Nomvula Mokonyane, Faith Mutambi. Some of them fell off when the new cabinet was constituted by the president now, Cyril Ramaphosa, and some remained in cabinet. But we did make a call that all of those ministers should be removed from cabinet, because we should rid South Africa of all the enablers of state capture who sought to undermine the integrity of government, who undermined the autonomy of government from external influences, because the Guptas were practically in charge when Jacob Zuma was the president of the ANC and of the country. So it's one of the things that we have made calls upon. So that is why sometimes we get shocked when people say, why Nhlanhla Nene and not these ones? We actually started with those people before we even called for the resignation of Nhlanhla Nene. And we still stick by that call that all those potential possible criminals, possible alleged criminals who enabled state capture to happen seamlessly by the Guptas must be removed from cabinet.
Final question. I mean, if his tweets are anything to go by, the new finance minister, Tito Mboweni, has spoken out in support of things you have championed, including, of course, a sovereign wealth fund and at least partial ownership of land by the state, including the mines. Do you welcome his appointment?
Look, we note the appointment of Mr. Tito Mboweni as the Minister of Finance.
You don't have files on him.
We note
any files?
We do not have issues that relate to him being involved in corruption or wrongdoing, but we know that historically he was associated with orthodox economics perspectives in terms of how he thinks that how society should be organized. But then, of course, you are right that in the recent past he has been saying that there should be creation of a state bank. He has been saying there must be creation of a sovereign wealth fund. He has been saying that the state should be exposed to a certain degree in the ownership of the mineral resources, in the actual process of extraction of mineral resources in South Africa. And the good thing is that almost all those issues that he publicly championed in his Twitter and in his social media platforms are before the Standing Committee on Finance now, because the EFF has tabled the private members bill on the creation of a state bank. We have put a substantial policy proposal on the sovereign wealth fund. So he must live up to his word and support that now as a minister, not just as a Twitterati.
You will wait and see. I saw a naughty tweet earlier from somebody who said to the EFF, who knew it would be so easy to lead the ANC from outside? We'll leave it there. Floyd Shivambu, Deputy Leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, reacting to the appointment of Tito Mboweni as the country's new finance minister.